The front door groaned on its hinges, a dry, metallic screech that shattered the silence of my home. I stood in the entryway, my pulse steady, eyes fixed on the man who had once promised to protect me for a lifetime. Mark Davis stood there, looking rumpled, his gaze shifting nervously behind him. There she was, his mistress, slumped in a wheelchair, looking like a fragile doll brought into a space she had no right to occupy. He probably expected a scene. He expected tears, accusations, or the desperate clawing of a wife clinging to a dying marriage. Instead, I felt a wave of cold, crystalline relief wash over me. I adjusted the strap of my designer purse, my posture perfectly erect, and spoke with a terrifying nonchalance that made him freeze. "I've been assigned to the European branch for a 5-year rotation," I said, my voice cutting through the stale air like a blade. "I leave tonight." Mark's face paled, his arrogance momentarily replaced by sheer, dumbfounded confusion. He looked at my sharp, tailored power suit, a stark contrast to the modest, domestic clothes he was accustomed to seeing me in. He didn't understand yet. He thought he was losing a servant, but he was actually losing his entire world. I offered a faint, icy smile and walked past them, never looking back. The elevator mirrored my reflection, and for the first time in 4 years, I didn't see the woman who walked on eggshells. I saw a predator, who had spent every waking moment of her submissive life sharpening her claws. As the doors slid shut, I opened my bag. Inside, there were no grocery lists or trivial household reminders. It was a tactical repository, years of meticulously compiled financial audits, personnel records, and a digital recording pen that had caught every confession Mark ever whispered to his partners in crime. Every night, while he played the devoted husband, I was playing the long game. I had studied the company's structural loopholes, tracked every irregular withdrawal, and logged his every betrayal with the cold precision of a forensic accountant. Those years of being treated like an administrative ghost weren't just endurance, they were surveillance. I checked my phone, a final text from Liam, my silent ally at corporate. "Boardroom prepped. We have them exactly where you calculated." I exhaled, the tension of 1,000 silent dinners evaporating. Mark thought my silence meant defeat, but it was actually the sound of a trap snapping shut. I wasn't just walking into an office today. I was walking into the epicenter of his destruction. My past, my pain, and my patience had all led to this single, inevitable moment of total demolition. The boardroom was a tomb of hushed voices and anxious shuffling. As I pushed the heavy oak doors open, the air grew thick, instantly stifled by the weight of anticipation. 30 people sat with rigid backs, their eyes darting toward the entrance. Mark was there, buried in his seat, his hair unkempt and his hands trembling so violently he could barely hold his phone. He looked like a man waiting for a firing squad. I didn't stop. I walked the length of the room, the sharp, rhythmic click-clack of my stilettos echoing against the marble like a countdown. Every step was a final goodbye to the fragile woman I used to be. When I reached the head of the table and took my seat, the room didn't just go silent, it froze, as if dipped in liquid nitrogen. Liam stood beside me, his gaze anchored on the room. "Please welcome your new regional director, Miss Chloe Brooks." The silence stretched, agonizing and absolute. Mark's face morphed from confusion to horror, as our eyes locked. The phone slipped from his sweat-slicked fingers, clattering loudly onto the wooden table. He didn't stand up, he couldn't. His legs had simply ceased to function. I opened my folder, my voice calm, icy, and devoid of mercy. "Mr. Davis, let's begin with your discrepancies. The digital world is a dangerous place for a man with a guilty conscience." As the corporate Slack channel pinged relentlessly, Mark's desperation spilled into the public sphere. He broadcasted his failures like a badge of honor, claiming I was a mastermind, a spy, and a puppet master colluding with the VP. Every message was a digital scream for help, a frantic attempt to smear my reputation before I could finish his. He tried to paint me as the villain, hoping the mob would tear me down in his stead. I read his rants from the silence of my office, feeling nothing but a profound, detached pity. It was so incredibly familiar. Mark never valued the truth, he only valued the narrative that kept him in power. Outside, I could hear the office buzz, the frantic whispers, the curious glances, the wildfire of rumors. The social atmosphere was charged, brittle, and primed to snap. When I stepped into the lobby, he was there, center stage, flanked by his sales team, his face flushed with the erratic, performative rage of a man cornered. He turned to the crowd, his voice shaking with feigned agony. "Chloe, you finally had the guts to come down," he bellowed. The lobby went dead silent. I walked toward him, not as a wife, but as an auditor of his life. The silence of the luxury condo was absolute, the kind of quiet that follows a massive storm. Standing in the center of my living room, I flipped the light switch, the bright LED bulbs illuminating every corner of a space that no longer felt like a prison. The furniture, the walls, the memories of a life built on compromise, they were just objects now, stripped of their power to hurt me. Mark was gone. The charade had collapsed, leaving behind only the cold, hard wreckage of his own design. I hadn't destroyed him, I had simply stopped holding him up. As I stood there, taking a deep, steadying breath, I finally understood the true nature of the journey. Redemption isn't found in the ruins of an enemy, nor is it in the validation of others. It is found in the moment you realize you are no longer afraid of the empty space. For the first time in years, the silence wasn't lonely, it was liberating. At Justice Valley, we know that some stories don't end in tears, they end in awakenings. If you have been waiting for a sign to cut the cancer out of your life, this is it. Do not wait for your world to collapse before you choose your own peace. Walk away. Your soul is worth the effort.